There was a time in my life when I would project myself into the future constantly. I would imagine what it would be like to reach my goals and my vision of what an ideal future would look like. Driving in the countryside with an expensive car, a beautiful woman, a sense of peace knowing that I have accomplished all of the goals that I set for myself in life. Imagining that moment of contentment and happiness. I could finally breathe. Everything is okay. When we project ourselves into the future, even if it's towards goals or the idea of achieving something, it's rarely met with a feeling of peace. It's usually a feeling of desperate grasping, questioning, wondering, how am I going to ever reach that point? How am I ever going to get to the top of the mountain? If I'm being honest with you now, the reality of my life is all of those feelings that I imagined once I reached these goals. I have them now. I've achieved some of those goals, but many of them I have not. I've let go of a lot of those goals because I realized that the motivation was the desire for validation, the desire to feel loved, the desire to finally feel worthy. The path of self-improvement is very interesting because while there are many good things about it, there tends to be an energy of constantly striving, holding your breath, shallow breathing, trying to get to the next step. Through most of my life in this energy of trying to achieve, there wasn't much groundedness, there wasn't much peace. The reason why in this season of life I can't seem to shut the fuck up about spirituality is because it is the one thing that has finally given me the permission to feel all of the sensations, all of the feelings that I thought I would get when I achieved certain goals in life. I've had beautiful women, I've had monetary success. As a songwriter, I've had countless songs on TV shows. And the moment I've reached any of those mountaintops, I've been shocked at how quickly the ego starts worrying about how to stay there or how to achieve the next level. And what you'll find is if you're on this path long enough of achievement and self-improvement, it doesn't ever actually end. My nightmare now at this point is imagining getting to a place like some of these high achievers where you're making hundreds of millions of dollars, but there is never that sense of contentment, of peace, fulfillment, to just be where you're at in the moment, not feeling like you need to look in the past to regret or look to the future to achieve something, but to just be right here and now. These are very simple concepts, but nearly impossible for the mind to understand. So when I talk about these things, it's not even something that I think that I can put in language, but it's more so an energetic feeling that I'm hoping to convey to you through my presence and the space beneath the words. Even this type of message, I'm aware, can't be received by most people because most people are completely identified with the mind, completely identified with the ego, and completely identified with the body even. The concept of even understanding that an individual is not the body and is not the mind can be terrifying. Because if you're not those things, then who are you? What's the point of anything? Sometimes these thoughts and these questions, if you're not careful, can lead you to a point of nihilism and fatalism. And that's not where I'm trying to lead you to. Another part of the equation that I would say is even more important is the concept of unity and love. And I know that that can sound like some hippie bullshit. These understandings, not even understandings, because mentally it can't be understood. These realizations come from a degree of seeking, an unshakable desire for truth. Who am I? Why am I here? We're on this floating rock in the middle of space and it just seems like chaos. What's the reason for any of this? And while these questions can seem very scary, they're the very questions that your soul is asking for a reason. And let me say that this video isn't going to try to convince you of any kind of religion or anything like that. I was raised in religion and in a lot of ways it sort of fucked me up and led me deeper down the rabbit hole of ego and of mind. Because religion oftentimes likes to present you with certainty, The mind loves certainty. Hey, just do this, this, and this, and you'll go to heaven and not hell. Believe this, this, and this, and you can have certainty of your future, even after death. Once I was honest with myself, I got tired of living my life based on belief, whether it was my own belief or the beliefs of other people. Adamant certainty. The thing I'm starting to realize is knowing is very different than certainty. Knowing has no need to argue, whether about theology, religion, philosophy. Knowing just is. It is at peace. It doesn't judge itself. It doesn't judge other people. And the main reason why I still talk about self-improvement things, whether it's getting in great shape, having the courage, the confidence to talk to beautiful women, building a business of some kind that you believe in. Because at the end of the day, all of these things, all of this striving of achieving goals, it eventually leads you to a wall. And once you hit that wall, the only place to really go is within yourself. Either you bang your head against this wall or you go within. You start seeking something that transcends the physical reality and the physical mind. Sometimes when we hit this wall, it's called the dark night of the soul. And a lot of men become suicidal at this point. I have been at that place. Very few people, even in my personal life, know about this because as men, whenever we reach a level of darkness, we tend to just introspect. We tend to suffer in silence. But to my surprise, when I was in this season and I was seeking, I stumbled upon a benevolent power within me. And I realized that that was the essence of who I really am. It was never the body. It was never the mind. It was never the egoic identifications or even this character of Ryan. I'm going to continue making videos about self-improvement, but I'm also going to keep making videos about the more esoteric, mystical, because at the end of the day, this is what you are actually looking for, whether you realize it or not. And there are many paths to these realizations, and I will never completely shit on religion because religion can be a very beautiful signpost. But once you find who you are, you'll find yourself letting go of some of those things. You won't be clinging so much to tradition and clinging so much to certain cultural beliefs anymore. You'll be able to look into your own eyes in the mirror, in the eyes of other people, and realize that it is all the same consciousness. It is all the same awareness. And beneath that awareness is love. And it's very blissful when you abide in that place. When I make videos like this, I know it can seem kind of alarming. Almost like I'm speaking to you from a completely different energy. Almost like the character of Ryan is barely there and I'm just speaking directly to you. What it is, it's essentially you talking to yourself. And it makes the ego very uncomfortable. And depending on how many layers that you still have left to shed, you'll either get pissed off, annoyed, curious, and then on another level, you might even start to cry. Regardless of what place you're in, all of that is okay because you're on your own individual path. I guess the point of this video is to just say that all of that projection into the future, if you're a goal-oriented person, imagining yourself on the highest of heights, reaching the mountaintop, where you'll finally be at peace, you'll finally be whole, you'll be able to take that deep breath and just feel like everything is okay. That never comes on the level of achievement. Most of us have to get to that mountaintop and find that out for ourselves. But some of you, maybe you're an old soul, you'll be able to save yourself going down that entire path of grim determination and striving and doing everything you can to become a high achiever. And oftentimes what tends to happen is when you reach this level of knowing and understanding who you are on those deeper levels, you'll tend to achieve a lot of things anyway, because those things will find their way to you. Because when you stop wanting so much, you tend to get a lot of things. Call it a law of the universe, a law of nature. I don't really know how to quantify it, but it is reality. It's like the law of gravity. You can't really see gravity, but you can certainly feel the effects of it. But the funny thing is, whether or not those outward things come or not, you still feel at peace. All the feelings that you imagine having when you finally win the lottery, or finally get the beautiful woman, or finally gain the recognition that you know you deserve, that feeling of peace is actually available now. It's actually who you are, but it's hidden beneath all the layers of healing, all the layers of ego identification. And this is essentially spirituality 101. Every religion, beneath all the dogma, all the theological differences, is pointing to this truth. Every ascended master, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna. And if you are heavily identified with a specific religion and it's your whole identity, your ego will immediately scream blasphemy. And if that's where you are, that is okay. I was there for about 30 years, and breaking free from that was terrifying. It was part of my ego death experience that brought me to the point of suicidal thoughts. My whole community, my family, my friends, they were all wrapped up in fundamentalist religion, and it's who I thought I was. And shedding all those layers is what finally allowed myself to truly love myself, to truly love other people, to truly love existence, if I'm being honest with you. You start to see the beauty in the simplest things. Sitting in nature almost becomes like an act of worship to existence and being itself. And that being, it is infinite intelligence, it is infinite love, it is infinite wisdom. You can call it Christ, the Christ within you. Jesus, I speak about fundamentalist Christianity quite a bit because it's the prominent religion here in the West, at least in the United States. Jesus was just a man, like you and me, but he was completely aware of the underlying essence of who he was and his being. And that's what they called the Christ. Every single human being on this planet has that within them, but they are completely unaware of it. And when he said the kingdom of heaven is scattered all across the world, but we don't have the eyes to see it, that's what he was talking about. And once you experience this, there really isn't space for arguing anymore, because you can't intellectually explain this with language. You can't see it with the perception of the mind. It's this knowing that permeates everything. And when you see it, you basically can't unsee it. Self-improvement and striving and suffering is what eventually brought me to this point of realization. And I believe for a lot of men, that's the path for them. Starting with loving themselves. You look in the mirror and you see yourself unhealthy, you're overweight, there's this surplus of body fat because you're addicted to food or you're addicted to pornography or whatever it is, and there's this little small voice inside of you that's saying, this isn't who I am. This isn't what it looks like to love myself. I don't actually love myself. I hate myself. Why do I hate myself? Myself. What is myself? Who am I? Am I these thoughts? And then you start to spiral a little bit and you feel like you might be losing your mind. There's a saying that goes something along the lines of, it's a very thin line between psychosis and spiritual awakening. So it is still important to stay grounded as you seek and as you look within. There are tools even like psychedelics, like mushrooms and ayahuasca. And if you feel called to that path, I would tell you to tread it very lightly. Be patient with yourself, just like you would if it's your first time in the gym. When it comes to any kind of spiritual work or deep self-inquiry, wanting deeper truths of the nature of existence itself, just put one foot in front of the other. And the purpose of this video is to essentially tell you that if this is where you're at in life, you are not alone. You are not alone. Humanity as a whole is moving in this direction, one individual at a time. And with every individual that awakens to these higher truths within themselves and is moving closer to that place of being able to love in an authentic way, both within and without, you're actually changing the world itself. This is how we change the world, by working on ourselves, understanding who we truly are. Maybe you've heard the saying, be the change that you want to see in the world. This is true. And the powers that be will do everything they can to distract you from it, whether it be the media, whether it be social media, whether it be pornography. It's not an accident. There is a war going on for your attention, for your presence. So start asking these questions. Start going within, move from a place of curiosity. And if you're suffering, There is grace in suffering. It's what brings us to that point. These are some deep topics. If you find these topics interesting, consider joining the Conscious Men community. We have conversations like this every week. You are loved, you matter, and you've barely scratched the surface of what you're capable of. I'll talk to you soon.